Young and the Restless spoilers. Wednesday, March 12th reveal that everything has changed for Sharon and Phyllis. These two strong women are suddenly kidnapped and taken to a dark laboratory. The atmosphere is tense and filled with fear, but that does not mean that their strength is defeated. Because, in this dangerous situation, Sharon and Phyllis must find a way to survive on their own, whether it is a deadly experiment or a game of fate. When the two wake up, they find themselves in a cold room, surrounded by strange experimental equipment. Sharon feels a shiver run down her spine when she sees the tools of unknown purpose. Phyllis, who always maintains a tough exterior, seems unshaken. But it is clear that both of them realize that something is wrong. They are imprisoned in a secret space, and their lives are hanging by a thin thread. Meanwhile, an unidentified white van linked to their kidnapping is being investigated. The vague clues and unanswered questions make Sharon and Phyllis feel uneasy. They can't understand why they've been targeted, and who's behind it all. A moment later, Sharon discovers a bottle of antidote on the bedside table. Without much time to think, Sharon decides to act. She pushes Phyllis off the bed and forces her to take the medicine. "Drink it, Phyllis. It's the only way to save your life," Sharon says, her voice filled with worry. Phyllis frowns, not trusting Sharon even in this situation. She looks at the strangely labeled antidote, something that seems threatening. But then, in a moment of fear, Phyllis decides to listen. She drinks the entire bottle and immediately feels lighter, as if all the pain and anxiety are slowly melting away. Sharon looked at Phyllis, relieved to see that she was feeling better. However, Sharon also had an inescapable question: would Phyllis have done the same to her if the situation were reversed? She wondered if she would have had the courage to take the antidote Sharon had given her if she were in Phyllis's situation. Phyllis, despite feeling better, tried to keep her cool. She didn't want Sharon to see her weak. "Thank you," Phyllis said, and her hands tightened involuntarily on Sharon's. The two sat together in a rare moment of peace during this dangerous journey. Chapter 3, A Conversation with the Kidnapper. However, their brief hope was crushed when the kidnapper appeared. A strange man, cold-faced and deep-voiced, approached them. "It's nothing personal," he said coldly, "it's just an experiment. You're just guinea pigs." Sharon felt a surge of anger rise within her. "An experiment?" she shouted, but she immediately realized that no one here cared about their feelings. They were just pawns in this dark game. "We won't be treated like this," Sharon shouted, but she knew deep down that her chances of escape were fading. Phyllis, though feeling better now, couldn't help but worry. Sharon whispered, "Can we get out, Phyllis? Can we get back to our loved ones?" The question lingered in Sharon's mind. She couldn't imagine being trapped forever, never to see their family, friends, or a normal life again. Sharon sighed, and Phyllis looked at her with concern. "Not sure, Sharon," Phyllis admitted. "We might not get out of here." Suddenly, Sharon screamed in a sudden panic. Phyllis was startled, and Sharon quickly apologized. The two sat silently, saying nothing, but each could feel the fear in the other's heart. A wave of despair enveloped them. In the quiet moment, Sharon and Phyllis realized that they could not get out of this situation on their own. Despite their moments of doubt and anxiety, they both knew that they could only rely on each other to survive. Phyllis, although she did not want to admit it, understood that Sharon had saved her life. And Sharon also knew that, although Phyllis was a difficult person, she would not abandon Sharon in such a situation. The two had no choice but to continue to survive. Because, in this world, there was only life and death, and they had decided not to let themselves fall into oblivion. Life in Genoa City is thrown into chaos when Sharon and Phyllis suddenly go missing. Despite the efforts of family and friends to find them, every clue leads to a dark turn. Nick Newman, filled with anxiety, can't stop thinking about Sharon and Phyllis's safety. With each passing minute, his tension grows. He knows he can't just sit back and wait. Nick sits in the living room of Newman Enterprises, clutching a cup of coffee he can't drink. He can't help but think about Sharon and Phyllis, the two important women in his life. Sharon is someone he cares deeply about, while Phyllis is the mother of his daughter, Summer. It's unusual for them to disappear at the same time. When Victoria Newman, his sister, walks into the room, she immediately notices the tension in his eyes. "Nick, you can't keep worrying like this. We need to take action," Victoria said, her voice filled with certainty and concern. Nick looked up at Victoria, his eyes tired. "You're right, but how can we act without any concrete leads? Where are Sharon and Phyllis? They couldn't have just disappeared without a trace?" Victoria looked at him, her eyes reassuring but also without answers to the questions the Newman family was facing. Just as their conversation was starting to hit a dead end, Nick's friend Daniel Romalotti walked into the office. In contrast to the previous nervous atmosphere, Daniel was a breath of fresh air. He had found out some important information. "We have some new information from the CCTV footage near the sports club," Daniel announced. A white van with no windows had pulled up shortly after Phyllis left the club. And the footage also showed Sharon in the nearby Cassidy First parking lot, where the van had been parked. Nick and Victoria looked at each other, their eyes shining with hope. This was the first clear lead. They no longer had to rely on guesswork. "That van seems very distinctive," Nick said, "and it's worth noting that it was reported stolen from a medical supply company that morning." Victoria seized the opportunity. "We might be able to track this van. It could lead us to where Sharon and Phyllis are being held." While Nick hoped this new lead would lead to clear progress in the investigation, he knew that time was against them. Every minute that passed, Sharon and Phyllis could be in danger. The Newmans were all nervous, but they also knew they had to stay on their toes so they wouldn't miss any opportunities. As the conversation continued, Chance Chancellor, a longtime friend of the Newmans and an experienced investigator, appeared with some new information. He brought news that the police had begun tracking stolen trucks and were conducting checks in the area. "We might have some more information soon," Chance said, his eyes filled with determination. "With the CCTV footage and the report from the medical device company, we might be on the verge of a big break." Nick nodded, feeling a little relieved but not letting his guard down. "We have to act now," he said, his voice full of determination. "Sharon and Phyllis can't stay out there for long. We're never giving up." While the Newmans and Chances are busy searching for Sharon and Phyllis, other troubles are brewing. Phyllis's daughter, Summer Newman, can't sit still when she sees her boyfriend, Kyle Abbott, on a date with Claire. Summer, still feeling insecure, especially since it involves Harrison Abbott, Kyle and Summer's son, decides that this date can't go smoothly. Summer walks into the restaurant where Kyle and Claire are sitting, her face showing no sign of worry. "Kyle, I need to talk to you." "This isn't about me, it's about Harrison," Summer says, her voice firm. Kyle looks at Summer, confused but unable to refuse. "Summer, I know you and Claire can help. But don't ruin our night. Harrison is fine." However, Summer can't keep her worries to herself. "I can't sit still without knowing where Phyllis and Sharon are. And this has to do with Harrison, can't you see why I feel this way?" Claire sat silently, not knowing what to say in this tense moment. Kyle looked at Summer, not knowing how to reconcile their strained relationship. But he also understood that Summer's worries were well-founded. With new clues about the white van and CCTV footage, the Newman family can finally hope for a resolution. But a never-ending struggle continues, not only in the search for Sharon and Phyllis, but also in the complexities of their lives. Nick knows he can't stop. They won't stop until they find the truth. Conversations, encounters, and new clues are just stepping stones in a mysterious story, and the Newman family won't stop until they have Sharon and Phyllis back with them safely. Everything in Summer and Kyle's lives seems to be in turmoil after Phyllis's disappearance. Not only is there anxiety and grief over their missing mother, but this tense situation also brings up difficult emotions in Summer and Kyle's relationship. Along with their own concerns about Harrison, they were forced to confront unresolved issues and discuss their next steps. Summer stood by the window, her eyes glued to the scenery outside as her mind raced with anxious thoughts about Phyllis's disappearance. She feared that Harrison might hear things he shouldn't, or sense the tension everyone was feeling. In that moment, Summer turned and looked straight at Kyle, her voice filled with concern but also determination. "We can't let Harrison suffer any longer, Kyle. He might start to worry about Phyllis's disappearance. We need to talk to him tonight, before things get out of hand," Summer said, her face full of urgency. Kyle couldn't help but sense the worry in Summer's voice. Though he was a little confused, he knew Summer was right. Harrison was a sensitive child and couldn't let him live in insecurity all this time. "You're right," Kyle sighed. "We'll talk to Harrison tonight." Before they could face the situation, Summer still couldn't help but worry about Claire and her relationship with Kyle. Even though Kyle was Summer's lover, she couldn't help but worry about the complicated relationship surrounding Claire, who had just entered Kyle's life and was causing a lot of tension in Summer's heart. Summer decided to go see Claire, hoping to convince her to stop waiting and go back to her date. However, when she met Claire at the bar, Claire seemed reluctant to leave. "Claire, you shouldn't stay here too long. We need to deal with Harrison before things get any more complicated," Summer said softly, but she could clearly hear the tension in her voice. Claire looked at Summer, giving her a small, hesitant smile. "I just want to relax a little, Summer. It's been a stressful day, and I think I need some time to relax." Summer, though she wanted to pull Claire away from the bar, knew that forcing her friend wasn't the best solution. Still, she felt uneasy. "Okay, but don't forget we have to face Harrison tonight," Summer insisted, and then turned away with complicated thoughts in her mind. As Claire sat at the bar and ordered a martini, she realized that the drink seemed a little strong, unlike the ones she usually drank. She began to feel a little dizzy, but luckily, an acquaintance appeared at the right time. Holden, a man Claire had recently met, walked into the bar. He was a natural charmer, and while Claire still didn't quite trust him, she couldn't deny that Holden's presence lightened the mood. He smiled and glanced at Claire. "Your martini seems a little strong, doesn't it?" Holden said, his smile making Claire feel relaxed. "How about I order us a Vesper, it'll be easier to drink." Claire, surprised but also amused, nodded in agreement. "Okay, I'll try," she replied. Holden didn't miss the opportunity to flirt lightly. A Vesper, one of James Bond's favorite cocktails. "Maybe it's time we talked about exciting adventures, like James Bond." Their conversation gradually became more interesting as Holden told stories of adventures and thrilling situations in action movies, making Claire unable to help but laugh. Their conversation was not just about the wine, but also about the stories they shared together. Even the small details were very captivating. Holden, reluctantly, gave in, glanced at Kyle, and stepped back a little. "Of course, I just want to get to know her a little." Kyle ignored Holden's reticence and pulled Claire away from the table, trying to get their date back on track. But Summer couldn't help but feel the tension in their relationship. She realized that no matter how much she loved Kyle, she couldn't help but worry about his closeness with Claire. Where would their relationship go when other factors came into play? Despite Kyle's efforts to lighten the mood, Summer couldn't completely erase her worries. She wasn't just worried about Phyllis, but also about their own relationship. Claire and Holden didn't seem to be the type to easily let go of the mixed emotions they were experiencing. Whether it's the loss of Phyllis or the complicated relationships around them, each character faces important decisions. Will they keep their relationship strong, or will the future take unexpected turns? When Sharon and Phyllis's lives are suddenly disrupted by a mysterious kidnapper, the complex relationships on the young and the restless become more tense than ever. Situations that seemed unimaginable become reality when Phyllis is poisoned and Sharon joins her in a dangerous game created by the kidnapper. However, while danger lurks, something unexpected is happening. The relationship between Holden Novak and Claire Grace is showing signs of a deep connection. Phyllis, always strong and tough, never thought she would be in this situation, poisoned and without help. Nausea and pain suddenly hit, leaving her unable to control her body. Her vision blurred, her throat tightened, and despair began to rise in her heart. Phyllis knew that without help, she would not survive. Sharon, in a desperate attempt, saw Phyllis struggling with strange symptoms. She could not stand still and watch her friends sink into this danger. The feeling of fear made Sharon unable to think of anything except helping Phyllis. She struggled, trying to find a solution to save Phyllis's life. The kidnapper, a mysterious and dangerous person, not only held Phyllis and Sharon captive but also wanted them to participate in a game that they could not control. Every step of Sharon and Phyllis was in the kidnapper's hands. Sharon believed that the kidnapper wanted them to forgive each other, that their deaths would not be the ending they expected. But the terrible thing happened when Phyllis suddenly felt severe nausea and pain, making Sharon struggle to figure out what was really going on. What is happening to her? Sharon wondered, as she watched Phyllis gradually lose strength. She couldn't understand why this could happen. What game was the kidnapper playing with them? They had to find a solution before it was too late. At the same time, the kidnapper told Phyllis that since she didn't want to participate in the game, didn't want to play by their rules, they saw no reason to keep her any longer. This was a shock to Sharon and Phyllis, when they realized that their lives were being decided by an outsider. Sharon couldn't let Phyllis die. She couldn't sit still when she saw her best friend facing death without any chance. With all her determination, Sharon threw herself into a fierce battle to save Phyllis. She had to solve a challenging and dangerous puzzle given by the kidnapper. Time was of no use, and every second that passed was a lost opportunity to save Phyllis's life. While Sharon searched for the answer to the riddle, the kidnapper kept watching. The sense of danger and tension increased as Phyllis continued to fight the pain and vomiting. Sharon could not let herself be affected by fear, she had to overcome everything to help Phyllis survive. Eventually, Sharon found the antidote and used it to save Phyllis. But when Phyllis woke up, she did not show any gratitude to Sharon. Instead, Phyllis maintained a sour attitude and did not want Sharon to know that she could have died without her help. Although Sharon saved Phyllis, they still could not escape the trap set by the kidnapper. Throughout the week, the kidnapper kept playing games with Phyllis and Sharon. Each side had the upper hand at least once, but the final outcome was still unpredictable. The kidnapper keeps changing the rules and creating challenging situations for both Sharon and Phyllis. At times, Sharon feels like she is being pushed into a corner with no way out. But her perseverance and determination do not allow her to give up. Both Sharon and Phyllis have to face their deepest fears, but they also realize that they can only rely on each other to survive. Although Phyllis does not want to admit it, she knows that Sharon is the only one who can save her from death. They not only face the kidnapper but also face the conflicts and tensions in their own relationship. While Sharon and Phyllis's lives are in danger, another relationship begins to blossom in Genoa City. Holden Novak, a mysterious and charming man, has begun to connect with Claire Grace. Their relationship gradually deepens as they share stories, dreams, and unknown truths. Holden, with his rugged appearance and bravery, attracted Claire's attention. She, a strong but sensitive woman, could not help but feel attracted to Holden. One evening, when Claire ordered a martini at the bar, Holden walked over and changed the atmosphere around her. He ordered a Vesper, a favorite cocktail of James Bond, and created a light but captivating conversation. The relationship between Holden and Claire was not only about physical attraction but also about a connection of souls. Both found each other as companions, sharing sweet and hopeful moments in a dark time. As the days of the kidnapper's death game passed, Sharon and Phyllis began to feel tired and hopeless. But their resilience did not allow them to give up. Meanwhile, Holden and Claire continue their relationship, knowing that the challenges ahead could change everything. Finally, in an unexpected twist, Nick Newman and Billy Abbott, Sharon and Phyllis's best friends and protectors, discover the final clue to the kidnapper. A frantic rescue begins, as they face challenges and dangers. Can they save Sharon and Phyllis before it's too late, or will the deadly game have a bloody ending? Subscribe to YR to stay up to date with the latest news on our channel.